Over the past few months, a coordinated chain reaction has swept through the highest ranks of Apple. A wave of long-tenured, 65-plus-year-old executives are retiring all at once in a shift now dubbed the Apple turnover. To understand the timing, you have to look at the psychological weight of operating at this scale. When you are the biggest company in tech, every product decision is a multi-billion-dollar risk viewed by hundreds of millions of people. Because the audience is so massive, any stumble becomes a permanent cultural punchline. We still talk about the Vision Pro's launch hurdles and the AirPower cancellation years after the fact. While competitors like Google or Samsung act like daily uploaders, constantly shipping experimental ideas that might flop, Apple behaves like a creator who only posts once every 6 months. This pressure to be perfect every time pushed them toward a safe, formulaic design philosophy. For the past decade, they prioritized iterative part-spin updates, reusing old designs and components to avoid the public embarrassment of a major hardware failure. Now, the final piece of that old guard is moving. At 65 years old, CEO Tim Cook is officially stepping down. Cook's move to chairman of the board marks the conclusion of an orchestrated transition, placing the company's future in the hands of a younger internal cohort. This generational overhaul at the C-suite raises a specific question. How will this new leadership change the actual devices in your pocket? Tim Cook's era was defined by a specific corporate archetype, the supply chain operator. He steered the company through 15 years of shifting global markets, scaling Apple into a $4 trillion empire through sheer business expertise. Under his leadership, Apple launched highly successful consumer staples like the Apple Watch, which quickly dominated the wearables market. He also prioritized recurring revenue, building out a services ecosystem and high-margin accessories like AirPods to monetize the massive iPhone install base. Yet for all his operational success, Cook remained distant from the nitty-gritty of hardware engineering. He was the strategist at the top, not a product guy immersed in the technical details of the devices. This gap was evident in his public appearances, where he often struggled to discuss the ergonomics or engineering of specific products, like the Magic Mouse, on a granular level. His successor, John Ternus, represents a shift back toward a product-focused archetype, the engineer. Ternus previously served as the VP of hardware engineering. His technical background draws a direct line back to the product-first mentality of Steve Jobs, where the CEO is deeply involved in the materials and capabilities of the hardware. This shift is supported by the elevation of other technical leaders, like Johnny Srouji, the architect of Apple Silicon, who now serves as the chief of hardware. We are already seeing the physical evidence of this shift. Apple has abandoned the flawed, overly thin aesthetics of the late Cook era, in favor of thicker, battery-rich Macs with a full array of ports. Under Ternus, Apple has also launched disruptive hardware plays, like the $599 Mac Mini and the $600 MacBook Neo, which directly challenged the pricing of the Windows laptop market. At the recent MacBook Neo event, Ternus hosted the entire keynote, while Cook was notably absent. This suggests a transition where the engineers are not just designing the products, but officially owning the vision for their release. With an engineering team in place, Apple's consumer hardware is moving toward more ambitious designs. Ternus is already spearheading development on high-risk projects, most notably the upcoming folding iPhone, which represents their most significant hardware gamble in years. This move away from formulaic variations of the same rectangular slabs marks the end of a decade spent playing it safe. An engineer-led Apple appears ready to take thoughtful risks on physical hardware again, moving past the conservative iterations of the recent past. However, risk-taking hardware falls flat if the software fails to keep pace. The current digital ecosystem has clear deficits. macOS Tahoe, Siri, and Apple Intelligence all require significant refinement to match the quality of the new hardware being released. Designing a hinge for a folding screen is only half the job. Ternus must also bridge the gap between ambitious hardware and lagging software platforms. The success of this new era depends on whether Apple can shed its fear of failure and rediscover how to innovate through experimentation.